Call the meeting to order. 30 and for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce,
Present.
Trustee Mason,
Here.
Trustee Peterson, here. Trustee Luther,
Here.
Trustee Berman, here. Trustee Dominiac is absent. Mayor Gardner.
Present. This first hearing is a. Can I interrupt you for a point of order? Yes.
If I wasn't here and I in the meeting, happened during that.
Hold on one second. First, we have a public hearing on the vacation Savage Road. So you may want to hold this till the.
This is, okay, I can do it right after.
Yeah, let's do it at time. Let's do it for the public hearing. So the first is a public hearing regarding the vacation of sections of Savage Road in the Clubland subdivision. First, we need to administer the oaths for anyone wishing to speak tonight.
If anyone wishes to speak for or against this, please stand up and raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is truthful to the best of your knowledge?
Right. Next is the staff report explaining the reasoning for the hearing.
Yes, thank you. Again, this matter comes in accordance with state statute. This matter comes for a public hearing for the vacation of Savage Road. As you recall, maybe in January, we actually proceeded with the vacation of White Road. As you recall, when Newman Homes actually platted the Newman Clublands development, unfortunately, they did not vacate certain roadways. Again, these roadways are theoretical, they do not exist. There are existing homes which were constructed over these roadways. So these roads do not exist. And there is a new Savage Road, but this roadway that we're, or right away that we're vacating this evening does not technically exist. There were single family homes which were constructed. So this is really truly just a housekeeping matter to really tie up the last, hopefully the last loose end from Newman Homes in the Clublands development. In accordance with state statute, there has to be a public hearing to vacate this roadway. So we're having that hearing now. Guys, any opportunity for any public comment? With that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Again, this is simply a housekeeping matter. It will have no impact on any properties or any title to individual parcel property owners.
All right. Any public comment regarding this issue? If not, are there any trustees that wish to address this issue? If not, I would entertain a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Pierce. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion's carried. The public hearing is adjourned. We are going to go directly into the regular meeting of the village board. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:34. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce,
Present.
Trustee Mason,
Here.
Trustee Peterson, here. Trustee Luther,
Here.
Trustee Berman,
Here.
Trustee Dominiac is absent. Mayor Gardner.
Present. First item is I'd like to call my point of order. Go ahead, trustee.
And I apologize to everybody and anybody on Zoom for this point of order, but I wasn't here last week. And the reason I'm calling this point of order is which I was absent, which I informed the village administrator that I was unable to attend the meeting, and I gave him the reason. Yet, trustee Pierce went out of his way after the speech by resident Stephen Cooper on the premise of being a racist, homophobic, and a bigot, automatically the village would adopt the resolution. People that know me, I'm not a racist, homophobic, or bigot, but in fact, 2017, I did sign the same resolution that was adopted. I want to make it very clear in my absence last meeting that it's very important that it's none of his business. I gave it to the administrator when in fact, if he knew my business, he'd be violating my HIPAA violations. When in fact, the attorney should have stopped. action of sort, which he violated. Bullying, why would trustee Pierce need to know where I'm at?
Well, I do get, you know, understand the point. And again, I hope that, again, one thing.
You weren't here, so.
I was not here. I was not here. And so again, I will, we'll look at the minutes of the meeting. Obviously, if that was said, I have not, this is the first I'm hearing of this issue. I just hope that, again, that the board itself, we can all get past the individual back and forth, stick to village business on this stuff. I really want to get these meetings moving along. And I hope that as a village and as a board, we can get business done and not worry as much about personal attacks between each other. And again, I was not at the meeting. I was at my daughter's graduation. If that happened, you know, we'll bring it up to the proper channels, but I have not seen the recording and I did not see that in the minute. So I appreciate you for making aware of that point. Right. Next item is the mayoral reports, and the mayoral reports. The first thing we're going to have here is William Frank's service as a hearing officer. Why don't you come up here, Bill? If you have some good stories to tell about some of your hearings that you took care of over the years. How many years were you the hearing officer here?
I believe 10 years.
Okay.
I was the hearing officer from the inception of the program.
Okay. And I heard that every meeting you have brought a gift for the staff. Is that
Well,
correct?
That's true, and it was a recognition of Antioch because it was always been a loving mother.
All right. Well, I think
Coffee, cake, and donuts.
well, I think the village clerk here tonight has decided to return the favor. Is that correct? So there's a coffee cake for you to take on the way out, and we appreciate.
Oh. I've gotten a lot of gifts from municipalities, but this is the first time I can eat it.
Yeah.
Whoa, my favorite, my favorite.
Yeah, so
And it's my, just so you know, it's my favorite bake.
all right, well, that's great. And if there's anything else, you know, we're always here for you. We appreciate all your years of service. And I think you said you've probably represented 20 communities in all the years.
I've represented 20 municipalities in Lake County in my 35 years in the practice of law. And I've been the administrative hearing officer for 10.
Well, we appreciate it. I've only heard good things about your service here.
Well, thank you. I can say I greatly appreciated representing Antioch, and the government has always been easy for me to deal with because I never hear from them. And I enjoyed the police officers I worked with. We have a fine police department. And just so you know, I spent 35 years in the practice of law in Lake County. And I represented the Lake Bluff prosecutor for 25 years and Kildare for 15. So I'm happy to say we have an excellent police department.
Well, thank you. Thanks for keeping all those youth out of trouble and
Well,
straightening them out.
the most interesting story I ever had is the prior mayor had an office. And Lori will remember when I first started, the mayor, as well as others, fell in love with my dog, Mingo. And so Mingo has since passed away, but he resided in the mayor's office when I was on the bench out here. And then one day he left his office, which he's entitled to do, and he left the door open. So Mingo proceeded to come down here and got right down under my chair. And at the same time, I'm doing the hearing between two neighbors that are complaining about one dog is using the other person's property. And I, listened to this, so I finally had to make a ruling, so I make a ruling. The lady that ruled against, she says, "You don't even understand dogs." With that, and you said to my, put Mingo right up on the bench and said, "I've got a case on all fours."
All right, well, at least I'm not the first dog that's had them. So that's good.
I won't go there.
All right.
It's just indicative of what Antioch is meant to me. The way I started every month on Thursday morning, I come to stop in Round Lake Beach and get my coffee cake and then proceed to come up here and do the hearings. And to the best of my knowledge, never had anything to do. So,
Well, thank you again. We appreciate it. Thank you for your.
Am I free to go?
Yes.
Great. Just say-
What?
Just say you need the cake.
I've learned over the years to start eating cake. Then next thing you know, I'll be serving everybody. Anyway.
Thank you.
for-
No, we appreciate it. All right. Stay in touch. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
You will.
We'll have to have you back for training your successor in the.
I've already done that.
All right, sounds good. Take it home.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Thank you.
She was trying to be kind.
No, thank you very much. We also want to recognize Amy Prosciutto. She had a letter of commendation from the FBI for assistance in some training that she had done, and I believe some cybersecurity issues here, which can stay, I guess, in private. But again, we appreciate all your hard work that you did in that regard, and thank you very much for doing that and saving the village. Motion, well, we need a motion and a second to confirm some appointments and some reappointments. So the first person that we are reappointing is, we are reappointing Michael Bowling to the Police and Fire Commission with a term ending in 2025.
I'll make that.
Okay, motion trustee Masek, second trustee Peterson. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. I would entertain a motion and a second to reappoint Brittany Carsonson to the Planning and Zoning Board with a term ending in 2025. She's present tonight.
So
Motion
second.
second, trustee Pierce. Do you have any discussion? Not roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Lastly, I'd entertain a motion and a second to reappoint Jeremy Harder to the Police Pension Board with a term ending in 2024. I'd entertain a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson, second trustee Luther. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. We're gonna call you up. We need to do your oath since you're here. So we'll do the other two over Zoom, but we will administer the oath now.
I, Brittany Christensen, having been appointed as Commissioner of the Planning and Zoning Board for the Village of Antioch and County of Lake, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Planning and Zoning Commissioner to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna take a 1-minute break just to grab something to move on to the public comments. Check.
Yes. I just did it. Yeah. Well, no, it was. Touched it to the line. Yeah. And it went off.
All right, thank you. Sorry for that delay. Next is citizens wishing to address the board. We have 2 citizens that signed up to wish to address the board. I'll ask Madam Clerk to read the procedure for public comments prior to the comments. Thank you.
The opportunity to speak to the board is provided for members of the public who have a comment to make about the business of the board. The board appreciates hearing from stakeholders and values your thoughts and questions. The board strives to make the best decisions for the village, and public input is very helpful. The board must protect the civility and decorum of this meeting. Please be respectful for the duties of the board and the democratic process in your comments tonight. Please state your name and address and address your comments to the board. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please be factual and courteous. The board requests that you not make statements that are personally disrespectful or condescending to members of the board or staff. To the extent multiple speakers are addressing a single issue, the mayor of the meeting reserves the right to limit the number of speakers making public comment of a repetitive nature and or limit the amount of time for public comment. The board does not respond to comments or attempt to answer questions during the public comment period.
Thank you. The first person signed up, I have Janet Tendler. Is that correct? Tendler. Okay. So yeah, just please come up here, and because we're on Zoom, please speak into the microphone. Thank you.
I'm gonna make this fast as I can.
All right.
I appreciate your time. I'm here today to bring to the board's attention that Trustee Pierce, an elected official, public servant of this community who lives in the neighborhood of Oak Knolls, on the street behind me, has been providing the Antioch Police Chief false accusations of my residence. He states I've been blowing up fireworks every hour, every weekend. I apologize. This week, he posted public on social media to encourage his friends and followers to call the police every time they hear a firework go off and report my home address. He also stated in a public post that people come to him and complain about the fireworks. So as a trustee, he is allowed to pick up the phone, call the chief of police, and report my address. I would say this is overstepping his position, using it to his benefit, and a way to intimidate my family. The real issue here is my resident is not blowing off any fireworks of any kind. There is not a single solid evidence of proof, and yes, the police have been over several times because of this calls. They have shown up, in fact, given papers to me on Memorial Day when I wasn't even home, and said I was blowing up fireworks. I apologize. I'm not a public speaker, you can tell. I can assure you that there has not been one single firework blown off at my residence this year. And I can have all of my neighbors vouch for that because they're just as fed up. I don't know what I have done to become a target of this trustee's false accusations. I have already filed a harassment complaint with the Antioch Police Chief due to the false accusations on social media, wasting PD time and taxpayer dollars each time the PD needs to come out, which is causing defamation of my family's reputation and name, because people are seeing these posts, they see the police presence at my home. My children are now frightened due to the police at my home, confusing them every time a firework goes off that I'm going to jail. I am friends with all of my neighbors, and they're willing to write statements or whatever they need to do. I have lived in Antioch for over 40 years. I've lived in Oak Knolls for 14 of those years. I have 3 sons. One is currently in the U.S. Air Force serving overseas. I have 2 cousins that are in the Chicago Police Department, and if anyone has the utmost respect for the law and officials, it's my family. But what I cannot respect is the false accusations put on my family residency by Trustee Pierce. I want my family name, my home reputation cleared. I take pride in being an outstanding member of this community, and I am here because I refuse to let someone ruin that for me and my kids. Trustee Pierce is an elected official that took an oath to his office. He is a face and a voice of our community, and I expected more from him. I wish he would have handled this differently, but since he did not, and he continues to make false accusations, that is why I'm here today. I am fed up. He should be held accountable for his actions. It's affecting me and my family. And I ask that the village board address Trustee Pierce's unacceptable public behavior and how it violates the village code of ethics. Thank you.
Carmen, Mary Newt.
Oh, you got it.
No, you're close. Mary Newt. Yes, close, yeah.
My name is Carmen Marinuke. I live at 971 Harvest Drive. As a resident, I just came, I was not able to attend the last meeting where you guys voted on that welcoming and inclusion. I find it strange. I find it strange that a village needs to do that. Did any one of you not be welcoming to someone? Did any one of you not include anyone? I personally haven't. I know we've been attacked, me, myself, as well as parents of Antioch, as well as Trustee Berman. We've been attacked that we haven't been, but those are lies. I just find it odd that a village has to do that. And I understand that it was done back in 2017 and I was not as involved back then, so I had no idea. I still find it strange that it was done back then. But the worst part of it is the attack that's being allowed on Trustee Berman. For one, because of her First Amendment right, and it doesn't seem like this village and the trustees are backing her up on her decision. She ran for the values and now she's standing for those same values. And we as the residents that elected her respect her for that. And so should everybody else for her decision. That was her First Amendment right and it feels like she's being attacked for it. And that's not okay. We back her up because she still has the same values that she ran for and why she got elected. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I didn't get a reply on that email, so I can re-forward it to you if you like.
Sure. Thank you. That's it for people that signed up for public comments. And the first item for regular business is the approval of the June 8th, 2022 regular meeting minutes as presented. So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Peterson, roll call please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
I wasn't here, so
I'm sorry,
I'm recusing because I wasn't here.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
All right, 4 voting yes, 1 recused, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff, the amount of $326,479.99. I entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson,
Second.
second trustee Masek, roll call please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of a resolution accepting the proposal for certain soil remediation work from Orvine Inc. and authorizing the mayor or his designated representative to enter into an agreement for such work for the village of Antioch, county of Lake, state of Illinois, resolution number 22-52. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson,
Second.
second trustee Berman. Any discussion regarding this item? If not, I entertain a roll call.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next is consideration and approval of a resolution approving an agreement for construction management, soil sampling, reporting and documentation services from Deegan and Associates LLC, authorizing the mayor or his designated representative to execute the agreement for such services for the village of Antioch, county of Lake, state of Illinois, resolution number 22-53. I'd entertain a motion in a second. So moved. Trustee, motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Berman, roll call please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. We have item number 5 on the agenda is consideration and approval of an ordinance vacating Savage Road through the Clublands, Phase 1, Phase 3 East, and Phase 3 East 3 subdivision, ordinance number 22-06-35. I entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson.
Waiving the second
Oh,
reading.
yeah, sorry, waiving the second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second trustee Berman waiving the second reading. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next is consideration and approval of an ordinance amending Title III of the Municipal Code of Antioch, adding a new Chapter 6, establishing a sales tax on tickets sold to motion picture viewings and live performances and rental agreements at motion picture theaters. Ordinance number 22-5-28. Do I have a motion and a second, waiving the second reading?
So moved.
Motion trustee Luther.
Second. Waiving the second reading.
And that's a second by trustee Peterson, adopting the ordinance.
It should be motion to waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance.
Okay. Second, waiving the second reading and adopting the ordinance.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
On. With discussion, we got discussion.
Yeah, I got it.
Sure. All right. Before we take the roll, we'll take discussion on this matter. Go ahead, trustee.
And when we read this, it read as if any live performance was gonna be taxed. Did we fix that in this ordinance? Because I don't see it being fixed yet.
Yes, I know we were working with council to make sure we distinguish that it would only apply, as we discussed, would only apply to the Antioch Theater. The other,
But it's not written in that fashion. That's why, at least I didn't see it written in that fashion.
In the whereas,
whereas, I think this says
There,
election,
there's a 387,
Is there-
Antioch Street address.
it specifically refers to the address and whereas. So
as long as I was put in, because I didn't see it the first time.
Sure. It's a good question, yes. Yeah, I think that part of it was the specific address was added, and I believe that's why they changed it to the motion picture
Okay,
theater.
I didn't get
To
it.
eliminate,
Yeah, 'cause the first time I didn't have that.
to eliminate PM and hour.
Okay.
Like that, yeah.
That's all. I
Any other question or discussions? All right, if not, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Last item is consideration and approval of an ordinance approving a ticket sales tax rebate agreement. Ordinance number 22-05-29. I entertain a motion in a second, waiving the second reading and adopting the ordinance. Motion,
Motion, waiving the second reading and adopting.
motion trustee Peterson. I have a second.
Second.
Second trustee Luther. Any discussion on this item?
yes, your honor, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, as you know, we have been working for a number of months between Mr. Downey and the purchaser, Linda Monte, on actually preservation and obviously keeping the Antioch Theater open. So you have a three-party agreement before you for a rebate agreement. We have been negotiating for a number of months. We are in general agreement, so what you're seeing here this evening is generally a reflection of the total agreement. But one clarification, there is a slight modification for the record. On page 5, definitions, there was a question about, we want to make sure that the theater obviously continue to operate. So therefore, what is the definition of operations? As you see in the definitions, we are requesting that we will have an opportunity to modify this one paragraph. Right now we have, if you look at the actual language of this agreement, it has a monetary amount. We are seeking a modification of that definition of operations. Based on my discussions with the purchaser, Ms. Monte, she has agreed to maintain a minimum of that the theater be open for either movies or live events at a minimum of 20 days per month. So I wanted to run that by the village board to make sure that that would be one small clarification or modification in the agreement that is not reflected in the actual four corners of the agreement that you're looking at this evening. So that is one modification. Other agreement, we are agreed that the rebate will be capped at $300,000 for the record. The rebate will be paid directly to the purchaser, Ms. Monte, under the general agreement of that provision. The only other provision I want to discuss, originally, we did have a clawback provision in this agreement. We negotiated that. What a clawback provision is that in some of our previous grant agreements, like Love and Oven and the Ale House, we had provisions because those were direct grants that if the owner did not stay open for a minimum amount of time, there would be a clawback or they would be required to reimburse the village over a defined period of time. That was a major point of contention from the purchasers, I'm sorry, from the seller's perspective, Mr. Downey's perspective. Staff was very comfortable removing that clawback provision because we think this is quite different than a grant. This is basically a reimbursement from the sales, from a tax rebate. So just for the record, I wanted to provide the board with that one modification because we did eliminate that. It is a policy issue for the board, but I wanted to fully disclose that staff is recommending that provision was appropriate to be eliminated. Therefore, the agreement you're looking at tonight does not reflect that. It was a major point of contention from the seller's perspective. So otherwise, what you're looking at reflects the agreement of all three parties. It took several months to negotiate this, but with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Mr. Downey's actually here in person, and Ms. Monty's actually here on Zoom. If you have any questions for Mr. Downey or Ms. Monty.
Any discussion on this before we call a vote? All right,
Do we have to amend how we're voting for it? Because he's mentioning changes to this document.
no, I think this document in here already removed the clawback provision.
Right, that's correct.
There was this.
This document
this-
is back on.
This document is correct in space, but just the changes from the last time, the major changes. All right, now roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes,
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, administrators report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just thought I'd give an update on the wastewater clarifier. The clarifier floor that buckled about 2 feet actually settled about a foot. We successfully were able to find, through construction photography, a dewatering standpipe next to this clarifier, thanks to Dennis Eibrock, your public works director. Was able to hydro excavate. It was basically a 24-inch plastic standpipe. It was down about 24 feet. It was filled in, but we have back trucks. So we were able to excavate that out, drop a pump in. So we have been dewatering the area surrounding this tank for the last 2 weeks. And we've significantly dropped the groundwater level. We consulted with engineers. But we think it's a good time now to fill the tank, see if the pressure of the water in the tank will make the tank go back to where it was. So that's where we're currently at. I may have a contract, an engineering contract for continued consulting. We need to continue to monitor the situation. We have a few dosimeters installed, which aren't showing us what we thought they would show us. They're not showing us the groundwater that we're seeing coming out of this dewatering standpipe. So it's still kind of a mystery we're unraveling, but I just wanted to update you that the situation hasn't gotten worse. We think we have a way to control groundwater now, which is a huge benefit. We're going to learn more as we get a couple more dosimeters or monitoring wells to install, and we'll hope to learn more about what's happening with the groundwater, and I'll report back in. But I do have a proposal from Stranded Engineering to help us navigate through both in the operations side and if a tank repair is necessary, which it seems likely. I mean, we could get lucky, this thing could be fine, but we're not betting on that yet. So when that time comes, maybe at the next meeting, I'll present that contract for approval, because it was about 20,000. The police department bid has not gone out yet. The plans have been modified or are currently being modified to reflect that masonry wall Preliminary estimates are that it's about an $80,000 item. But we intend to get that out to bid shortly and hopefully, if it be the next meeting or the second meeting in July, we'll present those bids to the board and we'll see where we're at that point.
Thank you. Village clerk? Any trustees? Brenda, would pay on the spot. Trustee report? I know you had a request for item.
I thought that would be discussed at the council.
Okay.
Correct?
We
Yeah, I'll be glad to bring it up now.
can do it either time.
I'll do now.
Yeah.
I just, since you mentioned the police parking lot, I'd like to broach the idea of changing that front area of that parking lot on Orchard to a memorial for the police. And to do so in a way that would honor all of the officers that have served in Village of Antioch and will serve in Village of Antioch. I thought it would be an opportunity to use that land instead of just as grass and bushes and trees, as something that would be something to honor our current officers, all the officers, and potentially be a nice decorative feature for downtown. So I mentioned it to quite a few of the trustees, and it seemed that there was some interest in doing so, and just wanted to broach that subject so that we can start the discussion to see how we proceed if everyone would like to go in that direction.
We had a little discussion about this at staff this morning, so
Yeah, depending on what the board's wishes are, there's a couple ways you could proceed with this. You could form an ad hoc committee to maybe work on what it is, what it looks like, how much it costs, something like that. You could direct staff to work with a consultant like a landscape architect or somebody that has experience designing memorials like this to get some ideas to bring back. It really depends on how you'd like this to be done. What kind of budget you want to spend on this. I think it's a great idea, by the way. Typically, the way the village would proceed on something like this is, it would go through an approval process by the board. It get designed, it get bid, and it get built. I think it should stand alone from the parking lot. I'd like to proceed with the parking lot, but I understand why he's bringing it up now. If you're going to put a decorative feature in this area, does it make sense to have a decorative wall behind it? Or maybe they work together. I don't know. There's a lot of questions that that we need to get answered of how this would look and what scale it would be and how much it would cost.
So I think probably next step would be have staff kind of research design firms that do memorials like this for either police, veterans, fires, kind of get some examples and parameters and costs and kind of have an idea.
Yeah, because right off the top, I was thinking doing some type of fundraising out, doing a kind of public-private partnership on the cost side of it. So it's not all borne by the village, but I think it'd be a great opportunity to clean that area up. And I just don't want to spend money cleaning it up and then tear it all down and do something else. So
Sure.
whatever we have to do if there's, the boards behind it, whatever we have to do at the same time so that we're not reinventing the wheel on that small piece of park property there. Or greenery.
The board should feel free to just give us their thoughts, comments, suggestions.
Well, I'm gonna give it a thought. Being on the other side, you're gonna start a war with the fire department because they're gonna want theirs. We start the police department, they're gonna want theirs. No, I'd be entitled to be over there for 10 years on the rescue squad. The rescue squad was the first paramedic unit in the state of Illinois. There should be a memorial over there. Where does it end? You can spend money for a new police car. It should not be with taxpayer money. If you're gonna do something, you gotta do it with volunteer money. You gotta fundraise money. Because the fire department, if you think about fire department's going for a referendum and they're gonna spend it on statues. That just looks bad. Because the bunch of guys, when I first got on, we need a rescue squad attachment. Something to recognize the guys that did it for nothing. No pay Went to paramedic school, we did it with no taxpayer money. I said, that's not what we did it for. It's not why we were a paramedic, it's not why we were firemen, we did it to help the public. We did it for the need, we were born to do it. I get, and if you talk to a police officer, I don't think they did it to have their name on the plaque. Get the idea. I was a paramedic for 10 years, to get my name on the plaque. I'm not recognized. Worst thing right now is we've got tradition we don't even follow. We've got a mayor, we got mayors that serve 3 terms, they get roads named after. We get a mayor for 3 terms. I can't even get a, we don't even give a park bench for drunks to sleep on. So, I mean, we don't even follow tradition there. So Larry Hansen, we can give the old brick road named after him, a park bench. So it's a nice idea, but where does it stop memorializing people? That's not why people become officers. Jeff can say I'm an idiot, that's fine. But I didn't become a paramedic to have my name on a plaque. I became a paramedic. People, you know, Denny Boyd became 57 years. I mean, that's outstanding. Get his name in the plaque, that's not what it is. That's just my thought process. Everybody became Dan Jaczynski. He was one of the first paramedics certified in the state of Illinois. I don't think he did it to get his name on the plaque. He did it to help Antioch citizens.
Any other trustees? All right, so I think the first step to do anything would be have some kind of price idea that this costs 15,000, 100,000, figure out what that is. So we'll have staff do some investigating. Okay, then we can make a decision. All right, anything else on the trustees before we adjourn and go to the town meeting? Not, I'd entertain a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion trustee Newton, second trustee Pierce, roll call please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned at 7:13. We will start the committee of the whole meeting at 7:20. So we'll take a 7-minute break. Come back with the ghosted update in the Depot and Main Street or Pittman property update.
You know what? We have one more. You don't
Scrounge.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. Call the meeting to order at 7:20.
Call the meeting to order at 7:20. This is the committee of the whole meeting. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
I'm still here.
Mason,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Luther,
Here.
Berman,
Here.
trustee Dominion is still absent, Mayor Gardner.
Present. First item is the approval of the May 25th, 2020 committee of the whole meeting minutes as presented. So move. Motion trustee Luther.
Second.
Second trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Mayoral report, the only thing I'll report is that although we had gone back and forth for the Centegra building contract since April was the first time I signed the contract. It had many revisions back and forth. We finally have both parties signed the contract as of last week. So that is a done deal, and now staff can move forward with the due diligence of that portion. So I just want to bring that up. Regular business, no citizens wish to address the board here. All right, first item on the regular business is the GOSIT updates. We have Abigail on the Zoom call from Altogether, and Jim Moran is going to present to the group the next iteration of the GOSIT project.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Village Board. We have Abigail from Altogether here with us tonight on Zoom to give kind of an update on where we're at with the Ghost 2 project. Tonight, we wanted to kind of bring to you guys where we are at before we move on to the next stage. The next stage will invest in renderings and spending more money. And before we spend more money, we wanted to make sure we were going down the right path. And we thought this would be a good time to present some ideas to you, have a discussion, make sure that we're all on the same page. And again, then we can move forward. So with that in mind, some of the concepts that we have tonight, Abigail will go through them. Some of the concepts include building locations, just so you guys know. At this point, again, before we have anything finalized or renderings done of artwork, we also haven't proposed the ideas to the building owners. So you guys are aware of that. Everybody, building owners might be aware of that too. Right now, this is still the conversational phase before we kind of move to that phase. Again, I just ask for your feedback and any discussion at this point, again, to make sure we're moving down the right track. So without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to Abigail. And real quick before that, I wanted to thank Ainsley also, who's here tonight, for her hard work in helping us identify some history and some pictures to go along with what we're presenting tonight. Thank you, Ainsley. Thank you, Abigail. Abigail, cheers.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to present tonight. I'm Abigail Rose from Altogether Studio. My coworker Rachel has been before you a couple times, and we really wanted to just come back to make sure we're on the right track. Everyone's on the same page and really thinking about everything conceptually. We're looking for guidance tonight. Nothing's going to be approved. These are all conceptual. We really want to make sure we're just all on the same page before we invest in designing and talking to more of the business owners. So I'm going to share my screen if everyone can see it. So this is just the GOSIS update. What we've heard, we know that design should pull from historic imagery from Antioch, old businesses and old signs. This is where Ainsley has been immensely helpful with helping us really find some incredible signs. And also colors should be historical and timeless. Goals for today is to approve kind of directions of the 5 signs, not the locations. and then really find this direction based on the historical imagery provided by the Lakes Region Historical Society. So the first sign that we have been in contact with the property owner, they're very passionate about restoring the Gamble sign, which is really exciting. We found all old imageries on some of the sign, some of the signs on the vehicles, different signage around the store, different ads. Ansley really helped us immensely. And we've talked to the property owner with just looking at these and reviewing them and thinking about how to make sure that it's historic, it's the same green, it kind of has that same red line. Some of the ads called Gamble's the Friendly Store, just giving it a little more context than just putting Gamble's, just so if someone were to look at it, we would see that. And in the future, we've also talked about having like little QR codes at the bottom, just so people can learn more, and really work hands in hands with the Historical Society. Another concept that has not been vetted, the property owner has not been approached at such time, it was only something we were thinking about, was the gold medal flower sign. The other signs that we're talking about today, this one's located at Something Sweet. We have been in contact with the property owner. They were really looking forward to it. We've also thought about Taylor's Shoes at this location, but Ansley really helped us figure out something that's a little more appropriate with the existing building today, especially the ice cream, Scott's Dairy in Antioch. And we love that one sign that you see on the dairy jar right there. So thinking about doing something that pays tribute to something in Antioch, but also contextually makes sense with what's there today. This one was another thought. Ansley found this really cool sign that really calls out some of the different things going on, but kind of moving that to more modern contemporary times, thinking about directionally signage that's also a historical mural with the bandshell, the wetlands, village hall, and just doing more of a directional sign. So that is another option as well that we thought would be really good. Reeves Drugstore. We've been looking at both King's and Reeves were such, they had, I mean, King's was around for 80 something plus year. Reeves has been around. Reeves was doing some really cool things back in the day with having longer hours to serve the community. So we thought about maybe looking at this old Reeves sign and then putting Reeves vertically and finding an appropriate spot for this downtown in downtown Antioch. There's a couple locations, but we would need to make sure that we've had anything with any property owners before any of the designs, the next stage happens. And then the last one, which we're really, really excited about, is the hall, I mean, that massive space above Village Hall. And I know there's been talk of either doing the current logo or more of a mural approach. And we really strongly recommend pursuing option B with more of a mural approach, meeting like the historic postcard with kind of modern day sites of Antioch inside, which could be really fun and more of a tourist attraction, more welcoming than maybe the signage logo itself, which should actually be updated as a freestanding sign, which we thought would be really cool in front of it. And then I mean, this is such a great spot when people are driving into the downtown, that's something a little more graphic. Antioch's brand is more than a logo. This is the opportunity to create something that's more nostalgic qualities. It's prime real estate for someone passing through. It kind of communicates the essence, the character of Antioch, rather than just advertising the village. And Ansley pulled together in the next scene some of the more contemporary current sites of Antioch within the historic postcard. But we thought this would be a really incredible opportunity. There's one more thing to think about with as the village progresses in the future, maybe there'll be another brand update and then the current brand logo would then need to be updated. There's a lot of things that could change, or maybe we thought that the mural gives a little more, it's just aesthetically really exciting, and it can give some of the people knowing what to do in Antioch in current times. We thought it'd be really cool. Next steps, we need board's directions to advance these conceptual ideas. More than what 5 ideas do you think that we should really secure with? which are the best. There were some other ones that we brought forth to you last time, like the PML feeder. I'm trying to remember, one of them changed on something sweet, so that was something else. But really create designs that execute this direction, then share concepts with property owners, work internally, make sure that they are completely comfortable, proud, very excited about it. Then we would come back to you and make sure that all the designs are appropriate, and then eventually share the final artwork with Right Way Signs, who would provide more of an accurate cost estimate or any little adjustments that need to be made to make it a reality. If anyone has any questions, I'd love to hear from them. And I will stop sharing right now.
Any questions from the board or discussion? Let's on this
No.
side.
I think this is a great idea. I think we should move forward as rapidly as we can. We don't want to be painting in November and December.
Mhm.
Anything, trustee Masek?
Don's driving. Esper.
She said,
I'd say it's like Don's driving.
You want a Don's driving sign? I can find you one.
Is that Barry?
With this mural, I'm not a big fan of the bubble letters. I didn't like them in the 70s, and I don't like them.
So in the postcard, the bubble letters, the font is not to everyone's liking. Because that's something that we could change and find a font to make it more appropriate within a postcard look. There's other postcards that have different fonts too.
It would be easier to read it if it wasn't bubble letters.
Okay.
That's my comment. And the colors are much better. I like the idea of the drugstores, the signs going through
Mhm.
like that. Gold Meadow Flower is great. It would be great to put it back on the side of the building. Gamble's Hardware, the green is much better. Those are my
All right,
comments.
thank you. Trustee
Great.
Bluthart?
Compared to the first round, I like these quite a bit more. I agree on the letters on the postcard sign. It's a little too busy for me.
Okay.
My only thought is that the sign that you have where you show the band shell and Brooks Wetlands, I know that's just a mock-up off the sign above it.
And that's actually
I
what,
love that idea, but I'm just, my concern is that we don't, and maybe I might be in the minority, I don't think we need to lock it unless there's a sign that's on the building now. I'm not worried as much of having a sign that was tied to Antioch from 70 years ago that honestly, most people wouldn't recognize that live in Antioch now, as long as it's historical in nature, I guess. So a sign that directs them to the band shell, but has that old antique look and everything else is more important to me than necessarily that it look like that. But, because this just seems so simple and it just doesn't do much for me. I'd like to see something a little bit more. The other ones, I love the idea of them, the dairy, all that, that all fits. The Gambles, that makes perfect sense, and those I love. Anything that's on the wall now, if we can recreate that, is perfect as far as I'm concerned.
okay.
But if it's nothing that's there and we're just trying to create something, then let's use our imagination to also that looks historical and ties in with all these, but is attractive as well.
Okay.
But overall, I love the direction we're going.
Absolutely. We'll think through that.
I like this set a lot better, and I do agree with Trustee Peterson and Trustee Bluthart in regards to the font that's used. I think it's extremely difficult to read, especially the end. I think they need to be more find the lines,
Mm.
you know, neater corners. I think this doesn't do this any justice. I think it distracts from what we're actually trying to do.
Mhm.
I do love the postcard image, the idea. It's just that lettering. And then the Scott's, what is that? The Scott's Small Dairy.
The dairy.
Did you just get a hold of that bottle recently? By any chance? My son and I, we were at, I can't remember where we were at, but somebody was selling them. I was gonna grab it to give to you. And I just saw that on there. I'm like, that's funny, but yeah, I love it. I think everything else is good.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll look at a more appropriate fonts. There's a great mural in Des Moines, Iowa that has kind of that same concept, but it's a lot more legible. And so we'll look through some different options and make sure it's spacing, that it is easy to read. Absolutely.
So, yeah, so I really like the Gambles. I like the flower one. These are way better than the first round. Scott's Dairy. I think killing two birds with one stone and having people know where the band shell is a very smart idea. So I think that would be a definite. I'll just be careful with like the drugstores and having the word drugs too prominent on the side of the building. I think that should be thought through. And then lastly, I get the spot about the Village Hall entrance. I'm concerned that if the Village Hall's not here in 2 years, then they're gonna have to redo that thing again. So sometimes I think that maybe the bookstore building on the other side of the street, even though they said they're gonna do something themselves, might be a better spot for it, just because that building's gonna be sticking around, but those would be my only comments to think about.
Absolutely. And we were in contact, I believe Chelsea is her name, that property owner, and we'll reach out to her and think about the best spot too.
Any other discussion? All right, well, let's move forward and Jim lead the charge and coming back in a couple weeks or whenever you're ready.
Great, we'll get moving on this, so we ideally get this done by this fall at some point.
Okay.
We'll get you guys renderings as soon as we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time tonight. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
for joining us. All right, next item on the regular business, another exciting item. It's discussion on the open space design at Depot and Main Street, property formerly known as the Pittman property. We had a meeting last week with the whole team. Couple updates on this. We're gonna have the trustees look through some further design palettes, give the board the staff direction on where they'd like to see this go. You'll see some renderings. We had the environmental team here. According to them, they could start doing work out there anytime. We are shooting for starting the actual remediation right after the Taste of Antioch. So if they get it out there on July 18th, it's going to be up to the contractor schedule, but hopefully you'll see some digging out there right after the Taste. So with that being said, Kevin's here. And you're going to step up here and present, and obviously Jim, Michael, Dennis, everybody else that's been in these meetings.
Yes, I think that's great. Let me just shift over to our.
And I think one thing that maybe Kevin will talk about is we did finally have this surveyed, so it's to scale. For the other ones were estimates on dimensions. This is actually to scale. All right, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. Again, Kevin Clark, Principal and Director of Design with the Lacoon Group. We're the landscape architects leading the process with our engineering team, Strand. They're the civil engineers. And Deegan, who is looking at the environmental component of this. Just wanted to bring an update to you guys and kind of have a little discussion about where we are, get some input on what we call pallets, hardscape pallets, different materials that we've been exploring. But first, I'm going to do my best to walk through this. You guys always make it hard with the screen in the back of the room, but I've got this in front of me, so I'll try to, describe where we are, what we're doing, what's changed, what's been kind of developed further since you last saw this. And I'm going to start with the creek. Number one, the creek has been in a culvert for a really long time, so we're freeing it. And we're going to do that in a way where it's has a little bit more wiggle, a little bit more natural feel than we even showed in the conceptual plan. So really, as we think about this, letting it come through the site in a little bit more of an S-curve. And what we're depicting here is kind of that natural feel where we're bringing some stone elements along this, along the slope here at the base, at the channel. And then you do have a slope, so bringing some native planting in there that will fortify, first of all, this slope that's kind of in the zone because you're going to have some events, some storm events in which water will come up into this area. Now, the first thing we needed to do with engineers was determine where is that, what is that elevation, and then get all of the use areas, all of the areas such as the playgrounds, the pavilion, the walks, out of that zone, anywhere where it may flood. Beyond that, kind of this point in the middle, that's in that green, we have kind of a flatter situation in which we'll have all of the great activities. And those are connected by the bridge in the middle, which I'm going to show you a couple options for, a couple elevations for what that may look like. That bridge connects between the pavilion, which is that letter A here. So this kind of great focal point pavilion, which will be used for maybe small events, music, performance, and just daily use. And then an amphitheater to the south of that. So this zone that kind of steps down, and an orchard would be a high point and it would step down toward the pavilion here, okay? Another thing that we arrived at with our steering committee is providing this kind of flexible, almost plaza space for when you have, say, holiday tree lighting or something to that effect. That's right across from the Skidmore Crossing. It's letter P, right here. So the idea that you could have a holiday tree and do a lighting there, and then a larger event when that occurs. So having people around at that location. We thought it was very strategic in that you have a lot of parking near the Banshell area back by Skidmore. People can cross there and have this zone, almost this plaza space to gather. We also show the walks that are coming through here, connecting to the corners, entrance plazas at Main and Orchard. Frozen up there. Main and Orchard, and then at Main and Depot, having these kind of areas that invite people in, specialty paving, or in some landscape, and that's where we can put like a kiosk or a sign or something denoting the name of the park if we ever name it, something beyond just the open space. That starts that character of that park feel, okay? As we look to the north side of the creek itself, we have located a small building at H that could have concessions and a couple bathrooms in it. If we're going to have events and invite people out here, we thought that would be a good idea. But bringing it along that access in that zone. As mentioned, when we were looking at the conceptual design, the idea of bringing parking along Depot. So just largely for daily use. But if you were going to bring somebody to the playground, bringing the kids over to the playground, might want to have parking along here. Or if you're just having markets for drop off of materials or anything like that, just having that convenience of having a little parking along Depot still maintains a two-way street scenario. So really it's just using a little bit of the extra room that's in that street now and bringing it into the park space a little bit. But we think that adds a lot of value to to the space and to the park itself. Other elements, the playground itself, we brought away from the corner, so kind of more internal into the site. It's fenced in, just as you would see playgrounds often in a lot of places, with internal gates. That would be in the middle of the space, around here, jumping around on me, where that splash pad feature would be. So that's what that oval is. So just a little splash pad with water coming out of the ground, really inviting the families and kids in this area. A little pergola there, some kind of shade structure for families, for parents to sit. And then a few areas, kind of one in each quadrant, for people to kind of come down a little bit closer to the water, whether it's boulder seating or outcropping stone in these zones. But really just kind of inviting people to sit on that area where we have the slope, and create kind of those gathering places for people in a park-like setting. I think that touched upon all of the key elements. I don't know if there's any questions. I can answer questions right now about this before I move into the pallets. If there's anything there.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
The street parking. I think it's really good to have the street parking there, but by your diagram, it appears that there's only 2 handicap parking spots. And I think to be encouraging for our seniors and our handicapped members of the community, we should stress having a few extra handicap parking spots there to make it more convenient. In fact, I'd be willing to say more handicap than what our code calls for. And additionally, I think it was Trustee Masick. I hesitate to say this, but I do think it was him that called for electric parking locations down there. He can confirm or deny that, but I think that's a good idea too.
That is the future of electric cars. You know, if you want our downtown to thrive, downtown's got nowhere for someone to come down on a destination map for their cars to charge.
We'll for sure have those. That's definitely it's more of a detail, at this point than what we're trying to accomplish tonight.
I understand that. Just to get it in the concept idea. It's got to put somewhere in,
Yeah, no,
in the brain box.
I agree wholeheartedly with this in steps of charge.
Great. And yeah, we can address the handicap parking and provide more space if that's needed, for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up on both points, because if you don't bring it up, it may be forgotten. Don't want it forgotten.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll go around. Any questions regarding the initial layout? And then we're gonna go to some, on the next 2 pages, some design elements. Like I said, some of the nitty gritty stuff like bike racks and things we will pick in, but what we want to do is get the general board concept of design feel between, I think we talked about was one's a little more modern or kind of can go back to a throwback 1920s look, and one is more of a nature type look. So that's kind of what we're trying to get to today.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah.
All right. So any questions about the layout? Brett?
Yeah, well, I see on the corner, what happened with the clock tower? Is that disappearing from here, or is that gonna stay there, or are you not putting this in this plan?
I think there are plenty of places that could occur. We kind of show in each corner these zones of green where there may be some planting and be curved. So that could be either replaced there, or we can find another location within the project.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we need to decide that, because I mean, if there was a dollar spent and time spent to put that there, and I don't want to just have it disappear off the drawing, so.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments about this part of the design? And if not, we'll move into the more detailed items.
Okay, so we have a couple palettes here, and we call them palettes because these are starting points for how we're defining the character of the elements within the park itself. And I would say starting with the bridge. The bridge is a super important component of this. And we have a couple of different looks at what the bridge can be. If you look in the upper left, We show this elevation of the bridge itself. It's about 70 feet long. You know, this is going to be a major place where people are coming. You have kind of an overlook, you have a vantage point in both directions, right? And it's kind of central in the site. And what we're showing here is kind of a really kind of a cleaner, simple look. As Mary described it, kind of more of a 1920s feel, back to maybe what was a lot of your history. And it has kind of the cut limestone. And we show some of the imagery there, kind of the veneer stone of what that could be. Maybe with a little metal railing on top, so it has a little bit of permeability. But it certainly to meet the code and of what you'd want to do. And building from that, we kept showing this image in the top right of that pavilion, and this got so many positive reviews and positive remarks when we did our public engagement of you know, having this great kind of pavilion that is a nice architectural feature. Those two things kind of set the tone for a lot of the elements we're showing here. The idea of there. Okay, so the pavers, kind of that elongated, kind of more neutral colors that we're showing in the paving here, to kind of work with that cut limestone bridge. The idea of the fire tables is like really cool element that we think we can have a few of near the concession building and these areas where people would gather. We've done other park projects. These are a huge draw. Having a fire pit or fire table, people love to get around those. We want to make sure the park is multi-seasonal, and that's one of those elements that's really popular. Looking at some of the furniture options, a little bit more contemporary in this case, but we could have, you know, picnic tables that are more set like this, or we'd have movable furniture in some situations. We know that, you know, we talked a little bit with their steering committee about that, making sure that it can be maintained, that we have a place to store it. You know, and people get a little worried about movable furniture, so that's kind of one of the decision points that we want to hear. We did show that pergola element and a precedent image of that, potentially in kind of a metal instead of a different material, which may be wood. And then getting into some of like the lighting elements, you know, bringing maybe a newer take on a traditional light fixture in this zone, and then kind of picking other furniture that matches that, such as the trash receptacle. And of course, doing some like overhead lighting and other like ambient lighting throughout the park is really important. It's the kind of thing like you're driving by, you want to light up that bridge. You want to have the string lights near the concession area. Those are the things that make it really warm and inviting for people. And so as we think about that, those are some of the other things. And this isn't our design, but just the idea of what that concession building can look like. So really taking some cues as we sat here and looked across the street at some of the architecture in the churches. You kind of have these peaked roofs and this certain style I think we can draw from, and it kind of matches what we're showing here. So that's kind of our first take at one palette. I could either stop there, or we can go through the second one. You guys can give me some input on these.
Why don't you do the second one? So there's some
Sure. Okay, so the second one, as the mayor described it, is more maybe park inspired. So the idea that, you know, looking at the bridge, for instance, and the stone veneer on that bridge being more of a cobblestone appearance, with maybe an ashlar pattern, which makes it feel a little bit more random, not so, you know, not the cut stone, and so it kind of feels like more of a park bridge, a little bit of an arch, kind of creating that elegant arch that comes over the creek there, with some piers at the ends. So that really kind of traditional, if you've ever been to like an Olmsted Park, like really looking at that as a precedent. Again, with that pavilion that we think works really well with both of these palettes. And then building from there and thinking about maybe the reddish brick clay pavers. For a highlight paver, maybe some bluestone, which we see often in these in the Midwest, which is a great kind of highlight paver as well, and works well with the red and that limestone that we show for the bridge. And then some other, different furniture elements, maybe that has a little color. We show the red bistro tables and chairs, the seawall option in the bottom left. A different look at what a fire pit could be. We showed that fire table that was more rectilinear in the first palette. This one is more of like round, and you can get some Adirondack chairs around it. We still think the overhead lighting would work really well with this. The pergola itself, this one we're picking up on maybe some wood with either cast stone pillars or concrete pillars. So bringing a little bit of that wood in there as kind of a warm element. And then some different lighting, again, pretty traditional forms. Want to respect what you have and also think about, is this going to be used in other places in downtown? Is this a precedent for where you're moving? So kind of thinking about that as we move forward with other projects in the downtown area.
All right, well, thank you. So it's a lot of new information to take in. So I'd like the trustees to, obviously we're not gonna have a final design tonight, but at least give the Lakota group and staff some direction on which direction they like, or, maybe a 50-50 split. Maybe we'll see there's a consensus by the board, but Trustee Pierce, do you have any comments on the design or the look on these items?
I'm more inclined towards the first one, but I like the rounded look of the bridge in the second one. But I'm waiting to see what the final product is.
Sure. Hey, Trustee Mason?
I get picked from. Sorry. I like the second bridge, but I like the chairs from the first one. I like the lights from the first one. So it's a mixture of picking, I like the rounded bridge. The first bridge, the flat bridge, that's a golf course bridge where you take golf carts over. I see it all the time. Rounded bridge is more of a walking bridge. It's more of an elegance to it. The lights on the bottom one, that's street lights. The chairs on the bottom one, people steal them. So you gotta get more sturdy chairs. The garbage cans on the top, that's a good garbage can. Lights. So it's a mixture of kind of everything.
Trustee Peterson?
I like the second bridge as well. It kind of reminds me of the old bridge that was there over the creek years ago. And then I like the seawall. Did you call it a seawall? A zigzag wall?
Seat wall.
Oh, seawall, yes. Yeah.
I like that very much. But I agree with both Trustee Basic and Pierce. I think I could pull from both. So I do like the lights in the first one. I like the receptacles. I'm thinking I like the pergola in the second one, and the string lights I love. I like the fire, whatever fire that my colleagues decide to go for. I think we need it, and I think we need sturdy seating. Overall, I love it.
Thank you. Trustee Luther?
Overall, I like a lot of the design in option B. The lighting, I think, could be swapped. I love the pergola in option B, that seating wall. I do have a lot of concerns over these fire pits and how that would work, and liability wise and operational wise, and how those are maintained and when they're on and off and everything else. So I do have quite a bit of concern about putting open flame anywhere around town. And maybe it's something we have to discuss. I mean, I love fire pits, but when we throw one in the middle of a park, where are we at liability wise from a village if a kid It's pushed in there, falls in there. I mean, what, does that open us up?
I mean, that's something I can look at into and report back to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a concern. Is how do we operate them? I mean, just going to the concerts on Thursday, everyone's running around and all of a sudden we have fire pits over. I mean, I love the idea, but it's just, I have some concern on that.
Yeah, I get it. And we had this discussion, we've had this discussion with other villages as well. And it is definitely a management thing and there's cutoffs and shutoffs and all that kind of stuff people talk
I
about.
love the bluestone and the pavers and everything in option B. I think you could clean it up really nice and then follow that same palette through the rest of downtown. Obviously, we don't want to do this and then go totally opposite somewhere.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, trustee Berman.
I like a mixture of both as well. I do like the second bridge. I think what do you call it, stationary. If the seating is, whatever it is, I think it should be.
Mounted. Yeah,
I
not
think
movable.
it's gonna be a big problem.
It is a management thing. I just to put one plug in for it before you guys shoot them entirely. It lets people kind of create their own space, and maybe it's just a few, but if it's a super warm day and people want to be outside the park and there's a tree 3 feet away from the mounted bench, you wish you had a movable chair. So there's kind of those considerations, and that's why we show it as an option, but I understand that ultimately it doesn't make it through. I get it.
Yeah, just picture them in the creek, somewhere else. And then you get a large group and they just take them all into one area and then there's no seating for everybody else. So it becomes an issue.
And then the, is it pergola?
Yeah, pergola, yeah.
You said one was wood, and then what is the other one?
The other one that we showed was metal.
Is metal, okay. So obviously the metal, metal would probably last longer than like the wood, right?
I think generally, I mean, I think the wood, you gotta seal it, you gotta make sure it's the right material for sure.
Okay.
Let me make an observation and maybe close a loop on something. I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about the concession area and the pavilion. Is the board good in the direction of the general look and feel of the concession area and the pavilion? Yes. Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Trustee Bluthart reminded me of the fire issue. I think he may have a valid point, and as I brought up before, maybe we want to put some braziers in the middle of the creek where people can't get near them, but we can have a touch of fire showing to make it a little bit more interesting, and that's something different than what you find in a lot of other communities.
Taking notes. All right, anything else before we move on and get this project up and rolling? Yes.
To Trustee Pierce's point, if you go into McHenry by the river, they do have away from you where you can't get them. They're fire features, like maybe 8 of them along the river, and they're beautiful. They're lit at night, but you can't get to them because they're in the water, but they're beautiful. So, and they're toward the shore. So if you want to go look at them, they're beautiful.
Kevin, you have what you need?
Yeah, one thing that Jim and I were just talking about is maybe, I know I just hit you with a bunch of stuff to respond to on the spot. Maybe just take it, and if you could, if there are things you just like, I just don't like this, and things that you love, maybe X out things you don't like, things you really like, get it back to staff. So then we can just kind of collect that, and I know that I have a strong direction forward. I think that'd be really helpful if you don't mind.
Can we do something like we did for the projects and kind of send out a little survey to the trustees to rank the stuff that we did, and maybe staff too?
That's what I'm gonna recommend, is that we print these out for you guys and then maybe bring them back, with things you like circled and things you don't like Xed out, and it sounds like there are elements on both pages that you might want to blend these palettes a little bit, and we're gonna get a better idea. I think if you just, you don't have to put your name on it or anything, but if each of you, all like, second bridge, but you all like the lighting on the first page, or, what I mean, we're gonna get that consensus that way, so the design team can sort of steer the ship in those directions. So if you would be so kind as to, if I give you this palette, these palettes, you just draw on them and give them back to us.
Sure. All right, anything else? Matt, thank you, Kevin, for your time.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Great to see you.
Yep. All right, any other business that we need to discuss?
I missed a trustee.
Oh, yeah.
We got stuff to talk about.
Sure, so we can do that right now, other business, if there's any other trustee reports.
Updates.
Chief? I think you just got called to the stand.
Yep. Thanks, I won't take nearly as long as I usually do, I promise. Just wanted to inform the board of a little initiative that PD is currently working on. I think it comes as no surprise that Antioch is susceptible to the opioid epidemic, just as every other community in our nation currently is. We've been a member of the Bay County Opioid Initiative nearly since its inception. And several years back, we entered into a partnership with them in their Way Out program, which is essentially a pre-court drug diversion program. That means somebody suffering from substance abuse can walk into our police department lobby 24 hours a day, surrender either any paraphernalia, drugs, if they happen to have them. If they have an active warrant, we can work with the state's attorney to have that squashed temporarily, and we get them into treatment. Sometimes that means driving them to Chicago, Rockford, or there are some local treatment options. But as we watch what's taking place in our own community, which is mirroring what we're seeing not only regionally but nationally, starting to notice some concerning trends. Just for instance, over the last several years, we've been monitoring the number of drug overdose statistics that we respond to. In 2019, we had 11. 2020, we had 14. 2021, we had 10. And year-to-date 2022, we had 14. So we're only halfway through the year. We've already matched and nearly surpassed what we've had in any year prior that we've been tracking this data. Going along with that, unfortunately, while we've had a number of lives saved, we've also matched our record number of deaths in our community resulting from opioid overdose. You may or may not know that the 60002 zip code within Lake County in January 2021 to February 2022 had the second highest incidence rates of opioid overdose within the county. Now, that's not necessarily reflective of our village itself. When you take some multipliers of our own community, that number comes down. However, Antioch is Antioch, and we're all one community, and we're certainly suffering from these problems. So while we're certainly taking the criminal investigations and attacking these things head on from a criminal perspective to try to hold those that are bringing this poison into our community responsible, I think that we also have a social obligation to try to find some other ways to address this problem. As we explored how to do that, I began working with Jim Moran on kind of a community education initiative. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be launching kind of an educational video that's going to kind of bring some light to this problem in our community. You may have seen the DEA has also kind of had an initiative going on that says one pill kills, what it's based on. There was a story that ran on Fox News a couple of days ago that talked about how there's a bad batch of counterfeit Percocet being circulated nationally, suspected of coming in down from cartels in Mexico, but they're laced with fentanyl and they're killing kids. I'm sad to say that in the last 30 days, we have experienced this in our own community, responded to 2 separate incidents where 15-year-old kids had gotten a hold of these pills one way or the other and overdosed. While we don't have the final reports, our suspicion is that one of these individuals did pass away as a result of overdose. And just the other night, our officers were able to save one of these young men through CPR and the use of Narcan. So where this is going to culminate is we're working with many community stakeholders throughout Lake County and our own town. With cooperation with the library, we're planning a community educational event.
I've been able to secure a partnership with Nicasa of Lake County, who has gotten a rather large federal grant to purchase Narcan. What Narcan is, it's an opioid antagonist. It essentially blocks the neuroreceptors in an overdose patient's body, stops the effects of the drugs nearly on the spot. So we're going to provide education to our community. They're going to use their interventionist is going to come in and offer to teach anyone in our community who wishes on the safe use of Narcan. Along with that, we're also going to provide free doses of Narcan for these individuals, so if they have the opportunity to save a friend or a loved one should they ever experience a life crisis. There's a lot of other things that go into this. I suspect that once we run this publicly, we're gonna receive some attention. Some may be negative. I hope most is positive. Despite whatever negative comments or attention, there may be some questions whether or not this is the appropriate role for law enforcement. But I guess I'm the opinion our branch says serve and protect. We are serving our community and protecting lives by doing this. So once this is scheduled, we're hoping for the second week of July. I'll certainly look forward. Hope that some of you can attend and kind of see what we're doing and show your support for this. So if anyone has some questions, I'd be happy to ask them as well. All right.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you, Chief. Thank you for your hard work. Any other business anyone wants to discuss? All right, I don't have executive session.
I'd like to update on certain things in executive session.
What specifically is litigation or?
Like, well, the stuff we've won that one place now. There's no.
Okay, so executive session for
Update.
litigation updates. So
And
we have
we had the person handling it, it's no longer here.
we have a motion and a second to go into executive session.
Yeah.
Motion trustee Mason, second trustee Peterson. We will go into motion and second to go into executive session with no further business to take place after executive session. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. We're going to get into executive session with no further business to take place after executive session. Meeting's adjourned at 8:12.